welcome. My name is Brian Caplen. I'm editor of The Banker. I'm here with Matthew Karwacki, who's the data editor of The Banker. And we're discussing the upcoming data stories that are going to be in the April issue of the magazine. Now, Matthew, the April issue is a special issue for the annual meeting of the Asian Development Bank. And you've been working on a ranking of the top banks for Asean, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. So what do the rankings show?
The ranking shows that the top 10 of the banks is occupied as usual with the trio of Singaporean banks and a mix of Thai and Malaysian banks, which are the largest in the region. However, we think that one of the more interesting stories in the ranking is the rise of Vietnamese banks.
Okay. And so how have Vietnamese banks done in terms of their asset growth as a group?
Very well. At the aggregate level, they grew by 16%, which is much better than all but one country in the ranking.
All right, and that country I know is Cambodia, but there's some special reasons why Cambodia grew and doesn't really make it completely comparable. Is that correct?
That's right. Cambodia only has one bank in the ranking, while Vietnam has 19. So the two numbers are not quite comparable.
All right. Now, growing a bank is one thing, but what about profitability? What does the ranking show in terms of profitability?
Well, the regional champion in that category is Indonesia, as has often been the case in the past. Bank Rakyat does especially well in that category, having the highest return on capital and the highest return on assets in the ranking.
Okay. And what about the Philippines? We haven't talked about the Philippines. What's been the experience there?
That's right. Philippines showed the highest asset growth last year. And this year they have also done well. They ranked just behind Vietnam in that category.
All right, and what about profitability? Are they doing well there as well? Or are they like Vietnamese?
They're a bit like Vietnamese, so they've
grown faster, but their profits haven't caught up.
Particularly well at this point.
All right. Now, you've also been working on the results of the Greek banks. Now, the Greek banks have had really quite a dreadful time. We're coping with the Greek economic crisis. Are they starting to emerge in slightly better shape than we've seen previously?
That's right, but they did have a very stormy year. At the beginning of the year, they faced a wave of withdrawals of deposits. Then capital controls were imposed during the summer, and in November, European Central Bank told them that they had to raise their capital.
All right, and how successful have they been in doing that?
They've been very successful. They increased their capital to core equity Tier 1 capital to 17%, which is exceptionally high by Europe standards.
All right, and what about non-performing loans? Clearly they've got high amounts of non-performing loans, but have they managed to get enough capital aside to cover those losses?
It looks like they have. The non-performing loan coverage ratio has increased, and the non-performing loans are not increasing at a very high pace. There is still some upwards movement, but we're not seeing changes we did in 2011 or 12 when the yearly change was over 10%.
Okay, thank you very much, Matthew. The top 100 ASEAN banks ranking will be in the April issue of The Banker magazine, and the data stories on Greek banks will be upcoming on the website.